You're tuned in to the It's Real podcast with your hosts, Kayla and Andrew Yagi. Each week, we'll talk about what happens behind the scenes working full-time in real estate and share with you real-life stories, our successes and failures as we work to help consumers and industry professionals reach their real estate and real-life goals. Here we go.
It's episode 83 of the It's Real podcast. I'm Kayla Calendar, and I'm a mortgage lender.
And I'm Andrew Yagi. I'm a real estate agent.
Hi, Andrew Yagi. How are we doing?
Doing really good this week, Kayla.
Yeah.
How about you?
I have to think about it. I'm good. I'm well. There's no smoke in the air in Fargo, which is, new, something new. And it's been busy with work. The dogs are good. We had some lake time. So yeah, I'm doing real good.
Awesome. I'm wondering, obviously you guys have still been out to the lake quite a bit. And I'm looking here and here we are. And are we in the second or third week of August? Technically the third week.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Where has the summer gone?
I think we just jammed so much into summer, from weddings and, bridal showers and lake weekends and 4th of July, that it just goes by so fast. It really does. And I can already tell, I said to Taryn, I'm like, you can already tell in August, like the sun is just in a different spot. You can feel it. The lakes are quieter. People are getting ready for school. And school starts in a week, 2 weeks, right?
Depending where you're at. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, depending where you're at. I mean, it's wild. Summer always flies by, but we always say that. But I am a summer girl, and I will tell you, for like the first time in a long time, probably ever, I am looking forward to fall, which I just think it slows down just a smidge. And after you're at the lake every weekend, it's just a nice feeling to be home a little more. So
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you guys going to get out to the lake anymore this year, or anything exciting? Or
I think we might head out this weekend a little bit. We were just kind of talking because, we've got some travels the following weekend, and then it'll be Labor Day weekend. And, it's
Labor Day
school.
Yeah, it's time. When do your kids start?
So on the Minnesota side, when do we start? Like the 3rd? Is Labor Day? Labor Day is Monday the 1st, so Tuesday the 2nd. Yeah.
And what ages? Remind our audience and me.
Yep. So Ella is going to be in 2nd grade. Violet's going to be in kindergarten, and Ivy she'd love to go to school with her sisters, but she won't be 3 till January, so she's got a little more time to wait. But
a little more time.
It'll be here soon enough.
So for working parents, is it a relief that kids go back to school, or is it like harder? Like, tell me about that.
I think it is. I think just the structure. It's great to have the extra time and, to get to go and have fun and make memories and travel and do random activities. But, on the other hand, it's really hard lacking that structure some days. And some days, okay, what are we going to do today? And it can be demanding too. Like I wish real estate was busy over the winter months, Kayla, because it's like, man, it's, this is just obviously our busy time. And, we want to be out, enjoying the lake, traveling. But obviously, you just have to make the best of whatever it is that you do, and just be a good steward of your time, which we all know, we all could do a better job, right?
Absolutely. And I think there's something to be said about that. In real estate, it's so busy, between, spring and summer, and then kids are out of school and you're trying to enjoy the summer. No wonder we blink and it's gone, right? Like, it's gone. And then it's kind of, you're inside for 6 months. So I feel you on that.
Yep, for sure. I will say, the pace this year has been, it's, as frantic at times. Like even last week, we listed 6 properties, but there was, we're like, this week, we probably won't list anything. No one's ready quite this second, but we've been having a lot of conversations with people like, hey, we still want to do something this year, but we're going to shoot for like September 1st. We just have too much going on, but we still have goals. So I look at that. So it can be, frantic at times, but it's actually been a nicer pace. I've actually enjoyed it. just the pace for even some of the buyers that we're working with, that, hey, we don't have to run out and see something right this second. You can go look at the property and you can think about it a little bit. I've had some clients that, hey, they're like, what do we do? Do we build? Do we buy something else? What should we be doing? And they have a little time to think and kind of digest. Whereas, the market in years past has been just boom, 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 boom. And obviously some properties still are going incredibly quick, but I'd say it's been a nicer pace, albeit in some ways a little bit of a stagnant pace at times, especially, when you look at the market and look at what's sitting out there. And we'll talk about stats a little bit later today too. But do you feel kind of the same?
100%. I think that, we're still seeing, I had a realtor ask me, hey, how long does it take to get a client pre-qualified? And I say it could be 10 minutes, it could be 10 days. It just depends on how quickly they get us our stuff. What if we need a verification of employment? What if we need a certificate of eligibility? Like all these things, self-employed. And he's like, well, I really want to set somebody up to look at homes this weekend. And this was last Friday. And I said, I will tell you, please do not do that until they get pre-qualified, because what happens is they find the home and then it's a rush. And for the biggest purchase of your life, why not take some time? The clients still have not applied. So to me, it's like, there's a lot. Yeah. What's that?
How serious are they in the first place?
Well, and that's where I feel like when you talk about, Andy, the pace, I feel like the people that are serious are shown, and the people that are hasty with their decisions, there's not a lot of room for it, even though the pace is slower. Because I think that, when it comes to clients wanting to purchase or look at homes, I still feel there is that pull. Well, we just want to look. But at the end of the day, the pace is a little bit better. It's more digestible. And the people that can digest it and are serious and have clarity, they're the ones that are winning. They're the ones that are like, this isn't for me. They're being methodical. And that's just so different than what we've been used to, right? Like we were used to sight unseen, writing an offer, 20 grand over. Although I still have a client in Wisconsin looking at lake properties, 30, 50,000 over asking they're going. So again, depends on your market, but I love that you brought that up.
Yeah. And it is interesting. And I know we've had quite a number of people that have just chosen not to work with us, but equally, I like that other individual that still isn't pre-approved. I don't know that they're quote unquote really working with or working towards anything, just because, again, they're not willing to do the basics. And, we've just got to the point where if you're not willing to come and sit down with us and have a conversation and connect with a lender, like we're just really not a good fit. We're not tour guides. We had some individuals referred to us by a lender, and they had a little bit of work they had to do before they can get pre-approved, but should be pre-approved in short order. But already we're reaching out, hey, we saw this come on the market. We really want to go see it. And just kind of said, no, sorry, you're not pre-approved. And sure enough, that property moved very, very quickly, as we thought it would, just because it was, a nice price and attractive. So it wouldn't have done anybody service, by just to look at it if we don't really have a plan in place.
Well, and two, it's like there's so many ways to, I hate this term, but to skin a cat. I have a client that is looking at a new construction, and he wants the payment at $3,000, and he could pay it down, get a price reduction, do a 2-1 buy down, pay points, get a reduction from the seller. Like there's so many different ways. If this client has had the time to think about these things, but we don't know how to curate options unless we have a credit score, a loan to value, what program, what are we looking at? And so in those situations, you're shooting from the hip, and that eats up time. So.
Yep, without a doubt. And you gotta respect. I wish everybody, respected your time, Kayla, or my time sometimes, as if, they would want their time to be respected. But a lot of people, again, they get an idea and they want to go for it. And hey, at home buying's excited, so I can't ever fault anybody for that. Just if you want to be successful, there's a process.
But what's really cool is the clients that they say, hey, I wasn't expecting to fall in love with the house. We weren't looking. But then they do the work. They're getting the app. They're getting us the things, because we can't go forward unless they do. So it's sometimes we see clients and it's rock and roll and good to go. Other times, it's like pulling teeth, but we figure it out.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Amen.
Well, hey, speaking of figuring things out, it seems like maybe the market is figuring things out, or maybe the government to some degree. The rates, Kayla, I was kind of surprised. I feel like I haven't seen a 5 in front of anything,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know how long as a national average.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think too, like there's so much noise when it comes to rates, even if they move a little bit, but we are at 10-month lows. So in October 2024, I mean, that's when we saw, quite a dip, and we did see some this last spring, but right now we're seeing, an average, again, this is your national 30-year fixed average at 6.53. But Andy, I was quoting this week, if clients wanted to pay points, which for some, it made a lot of sense. We were at mid to high fives. And I've got clients sitting at 7 1/8, 7.375, some at 7.5. And I think people are at a point where they're like, okay, I'm kind of sick of this. Like, oh, let's wait and see, because while they wait and see, that's money that's going out the door. So we are seeing more people taking advantage of refinancing. But also we're seeing a little bit more people kind of be like, well, what does my payment look like and what's my affordability? But I'm not seeing a crazy amount of people coming back and reapplying because rates dipped a little bit. I feel like rates, in my opinion, are not necessarily a game changer unless they were to move significantly. So a lot of conversations with refis, but yeah, not a lot of movement with purchases. I mean, if they want to buy they'll do it. Mm-hmm. But $40 a month difference in their payment is enough to get people off the fence. So
have you seen, I mean, so obviously things are still churning, but things obviously a little bit slower or maybe more consistent, call it, right now than it has been in the heat of the summer? Or?
Yeah, I think that things are still busy. People are still interested, but it's not like chaotic. I think that if rates were to come down, I think I'm nervous for that. I'm nervous for clients. I'm nervous for appraisers, title companies, insurance, because we saw what happened before. And there's a lot of pent up demand right now. People are like, I'm going to wait. I just talked to, I was at dinner last night with a girl that works at a home builder, and one of our buddies stopped by and said, I would love to build, but I just can't get rid of that 3% rate. Well, think if rates did come down a little bit, let's just say 5. That margin between the 3 and 5 is less. And even sellers that are waiting to sell, I feel like would be coming out. So now that's more competition. Yes, more inventory. But I think if we saw a decrease, Andy, I think it'd be chaotic. Don't you feel?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of interesting, just kind of watching the market a little bit, and well, okay, so a couple of things. So, obviously we're close, hopefully, to getting a rate cut. Have you seen any indications of what is likely, or do you have any bets?
There's talks of September, but I think everybody that says, oh yeah, we're going to see this, we rewind in our heads the same conversations we've been having. So we've heard of September, but nothing for sure. I'm going to be shocked either way.
I say the same thing. I mean, I've seen some articles out there that say, hey, there are going to be 3 rate cuts. I've seen one here, like on Reuters, that says, hey, it's reasonable to expect 2 rate cuts. I'm going to guess they're going to cut things by 0.5% is what, yes, maybe not. Maybe it'll just be 1/4 or something like that. But I think we need something. But, for those who are out there in the market, it's interesting. We both read a lot from Inman and, Keller Williams Realty. They just had their Keller Williams Mega Agent Camp, and Gary Keller, the founder, always speaks and says, hey, real estate right now is in a recession. The U.S. economy itself is not in a recession. But the state is. And again, it's very nuanced, kind of like your Wisconsin Lake example, where, hey, things are flying off the shelf. And even in the Midwest in general, the market isn't, as slow as a lot of different areas, but still real estate across the board's in a recession. And so Gary kind of talking about, this could last until late 2026. The housing market struggle stems from stagflation. Slowing employment coincides with rising inflation, creating a policy dilemma between raising or lowering interest rates. And obviously, this event focuses on giving, real estate agents kind of guidance for their business. But, we're in such an interesting spot. I think I read an article where it says, hey, if rates were cut by a 0.5%, there are about 1.5 million buyers that are going to reenter the market. And then, that doesn't even include the refinance business. So like you say,
Yeah.
things, we're in a very interesting spot. And I tell individuals who are seriously looking to buy, now could be a good time, because when rates drop, things could get pretty crazy. And I predict that we're actually going to have a good finish to the end of the year. We actually saw a decent pickup in the beginning of August, but not setting any records, not setting the world on fire. But I think between now and the end of the year, I think that that we're going to catch up the bang compared to what we've seen.
Well, and I think I like that you bring up and refinances, because what happens, do you remember, maybe not, but back in 2020, 21, people couldn't get a hold of lenders. Lenders were doing layups of refis. A refinance is a lot easier than a purchase. I will tell you, people probably don't realize this. I have a client right now. We're refinancing him. We got an appraisal inspection waiver. He doesn't need to bring any money to closing because it's a refi, so we don't need bank statements. We got a verification of employment, so we don't need, certain like pay stubs or things like that to move forward. And when you're doing a purchase, it's earnest money tracking, and it's first-time home buyers, and it's a lot more work. And back in 2020, 21, you couldn't even get a hold of a lender. And now you could, but it was like get in line. And so we think about the people that are wanting to buy right now. Lenders and realtors have more time. It's just it's more hands-on, it's more nurturing. And when things get to be busier, I mean, it's not just like poof, more lenders come out. I mean, lenders and realtors have been in the business for years. It's almost too much. I don't want to say it's too much business, but the hands-on isn't there as much, and it feels much more transactional. So for the clients looking for a more hands-on experience, you have to remember that there's a lot more activity. Even appraisers, getting an appraisal done quicker is probably not an option when an appraiser has to do 50 refinances. So something to think about for sure.
Well, and kind of hand in hand with what I was just talking about, the Zillow chief economist kind of said, hey, it's actually a good time to buy a house right now. And kind of along the same lines with home prices. So Zillow is basically saying that home prices are going to dip nationwide by like 0.8% or whatever. And he said, so, hey, for people that can afford to buy right now, I tell them to not try to time the market, because you never know where rates are going to go. We saw a lot of people saying last year, hey, we'll wait until the Fed's first rate cut. And, when that cut came in September, mortgage rates did not go down. They actually went up. So even though we can expect rates to ease slightly, we don't expect a major drop. So, again, just take advantage whenever it makes sense. And I think all of you lenders used to say, date the rate or something like that. Kayla, is that still a thing?
No, it's not a thing.
Are we supposed to talk about that?
I still believe in the date the rate. But here's the deal. I believe in the date the rate if you're okay with the rate you locked. If you're not comfortable at, let's hypothetically say 7.5. If you are not feeling good at 7.5 in an interest rate, right now we saw national average was 6.5. But let's just say 7.5. If you weren't comfortable then, I would not tell people to date the rate. What I would say is if you're okay, if you feel all right with this payment, hey, you can refinance later. But I really truly feel, Andy, that people were told, hey, I know you're uncomfortable now. The uncomfortableness, that icky feel, it'll go away. As a lender, I would never say that. I am not in charge of interest rates. So I think there's a little bitterness because some people were told they are going to drop with certainty by experts, lenders. As lenders, we are experts, but not the experts that are going to tell you what rates are going to exactly do and when. So I like the date the rate, but for the right people. Sure,
I get it.
Yeah.
Dating isn't for everybody, right, Kayla?
Yeah, neither is divorce. Divorce the rent. I still think you should divorce the rental, but I mean, I could also argue that for some people, they should be renting. I see some people and I say, you need to rent for a year.
Well, and not everybody wants to own real estate. And I even see that, we do a lot of commercial real estate and kind of the same thing there. Not everybody wants to own their space, which sometimes just boggles my mind. Like even some tenants that I have, it's like, it would totally make sense for your business to own it, but they don't want to do it. And hey, so for those of us that invest in properties, hey, it's another piece of the puzzle. And it's a big one, especially in areas like ours where the housing market is super tight. where there just aren't a lot of options. So,
Well, and I keep seeing instances. So I just got off the phone with clients. They're in a VA loan they purchased. They're getting $26,000 from the sale of their house, right? A VA loan, you don't have to put anything down. You could put 0% down on the new one. So they could walk away with a check because the seller is covering all their closing costs. And yesterday I closed a loan for a couple and they sold a house, bought a house, and they got a check back. So they upgraded their home. They got a new neighborhood, more space for their family, sold their house, and the difference is a check for $10,000. And so it's just a reminder too, though, is you can't necessarily time the market, but you can have time in the market, meaning the longer you own real estate, the more it appreciates, the more you pay it down, and you could be, cashing a check as well. So.
And so what are they doing with the 10 grand, taking their favorite lender to Vegas? Or?
Yeah, I wish. Paying down debt, probably. A lot of these people have not necessarily these people, but a lot of people have just racked up credit card debt like you wouldn't believe. Had a girl with $87,000 in credit card debt, and she's cash out refinancing and paying it all off, and her cash flow looks so much better. But I still think maybe taking their lender to Vegas might be a better option.
That'd be good. Well, and we even see it, in our economy, like foreclosures are up, compared to even a year ago. We're seeing more foreclosures, and we do obviously invest in real estate, so doing some flips here and there. So in fact, I just purchased a home that was in foreclosure that I actually was the listing agent on about 5 years ago when I first got into real estate. Which is kind of interesting. And then ironically, the people that sold the house, I helped them buy something new, and I just reconnected with them because they're starting to think, as their family grows, think about their other real estate needs. I offered to sell them back their former home, but they weren't very interested. But
not so interested.
We're working away on that. In fact, I've got my wife, she kind of stepped away from her full-time job within the school district, and she's kind of, I've got her working a little bit over painting ceilings today in this particular house, as we kind of note the bison sweatshirt, Kayla.
I appreciate the bison apparel. Was she actually happy there, or was that just for the picture?
I think when she got there and I brought her AirPods and she was able to listen to one of her books, I think she did pretty good with it. But
well, I will tell you, painting a ceiling is hard work. So props to Katie.
Yeah. But anyway, so Kayla, we talked a lot about, why now could be a good time to buy. And, we've talked about some of those market signals and the like. Another good reason why it could be a time to buy, Kayla, is the number of sellers taking their house off the market skyrocketing. And so we're seeing this where, I always say that real estate starts out with an individual who has a goal. And really, we're just here to help people reach their goals. And so there are, obviously, everyone we work with, they have a goal for any number of reasons to buy or to sell, to kind of get to that next place or changing circumstances. Of course, we know not all of them are positive, but we have some individuals, we know that there's a lot of equity sitting in homes. And, I still say, unfortunately, sometimes there are a lot of sellers that think the market's up here and buyers think it's down here. We, of course, try to help everybody reach their goal and kind of get to that dollar figure, or on the buy side, see, hey, can we orchestrate, a little bit of a better buy? It's going to help you in the long run. But as this article points out, that, some buyers are reluctant. And of course, sellers don't always want to drop their price. So there are individuals that are saying, hey, we'll hang on to our home. So this said, and I think we talked a little bit about this, but last time, but the delistings were up 48%. And did you ever get a chance to look, Kayla, delistings in our area, what the rate was?
No, I didn't see anything in our area. I haven't talked to anybody locally, but I would be curious to see if I was to check with some, even like local FMAR, to say, hey, what does that look like? What is an average? I'm sure there's some data that we could pull in Fargo, but I would be curious because I just read an article yesterday about how people are starting to take their listings off the market. But I did see, I shared with you, even just homes sitting longer. I mean, I can't help but imagine if you're listing your home, you put in all this, sweat equity or what have you, upgrades, and then you go to sell it, and it sits and sits and sits. It's got to be at a point where if you think you're going to make X amount to then be able to afford the next house, I can kind of see why they do it. I mean, maybe they'll try again. So it doesn't surprise me, but I will have to do some research for locally, like Fargo, and see what it looks like, because I'm naturally curious just in this area if it's similar to the national average, because that's significant.
Yeah, I'm very interested too. And so I was just going to look kind of year over year, just really quickly. And so, it kind of looks like in Fargo, let me share this. Let me get to the right screen and share this different window. So it looks like in Fargo over the last 12 months, or in Cass County. Oh, share screen, get to the right one here.
I'm very curious to know what it's like when it's condensed more locally.
Yeah, so if we look here, so in the last 12 months, expired or canceled listings in Cass County are at 1,131. I wonder if we look from 23 to 24. Oops. 23 to 24. 1161. So it's about the same. It's pretty close, right?
Mm-hmm. But I still think we're a little bit more protected up here than some of these, places on the coast. I was just talking to my colleague, and he's like, it was $60 for coffee out in California, like for a little breakfast, $60 for a one thing. I can't help but imagine how much more debt people have on, in these larger cities, or what they're experiencing. I think it's a little softer here.
Yeah, so even looking in our area here, so the year prior was 302 and 304. I mean, it's pretty much, right on pace. So yeah, I don't think we're seeing, the issues a lot. I think that kind of confirms that we're not seeing, the difficulties or the issues that other places are seeing. But still, it's good to be aware and know that. I think we will see more of that before the end of the year, which, for agents that might be listening to this, I think, and even lenders, there's potentially some big opportunities out there for those that, are out there and that are staying in touch with people, and that maybe have some innovative approaches when it comes to marketing and other things as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Kayla, looking overall at the market stats, so for July, of course, we don't get the stats till after the end of the month, but, looking at the number of listings, I always kind of go down here and look at the absorption rate, so the months of homes for sale. So 6 months homes for sale is a balanced market. Anything less than that favors a seller, more than that favors a buyer. So last year, there were 3.89 months of homes for sale. In the Fargo area, it's up just a little bit. And this is just the immediate Fargo area. I didn't include Forest in here, for instance, because I know that would really skew the numbers.
Yes.
And I guess the MLS, they send out, maybe some prettier stats. But, so looking at home sales are down just a little bit. Active listings are up just a little bit across the board. New listings actually down a little bit. Homes are sitting on the market about 20 days longer than average.
Yep.
And average sale price up about 25 grand.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's just as you said, it's okay. The average days on market is 20 days longer. I mean, this is great for buyers to just take your time and just let your lender curate options, be a little bit more methodical, because the moment rates shift, that days on market, I don't even remember what it was in 2020, but I'm very curious to see what that shift looked like compared to now.
Yeah, exactly. And when I look at my more immediate marketplace in kind of Ottertail County, it's kind of interesting. Number of listings is up. List prices, overall are up. We're up countywide up to almost 6 months supply versus 4. And I think a big part of that, hinges on lake properties. There are a lot of people that are, hey, we want to get on the bandwagon of listing our lake property. We're ready to move on. But, a lot of those properties are sitting a little bit more as well, which is a little bit unfortunate. But, average list price is up just marginally. Average sales price up about 10%. Days on market from 70 to 83.
Okay.
So
similar.
Kind of interesting.
I love that. I love seeing that. And I think too, like Lakes area, it's a lot of, handing down from generation to generation. And when a property comes up, I mean, people love the lake. Like that's the thing to do. So I wonder if it does have anything to do with that. So I like those stats though.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think it definitely does. When we've got about 1,100 lakes in the county, there's just a lot of lake property that's sitting out there, and a lot of it's fueled by the ag community. Commodity prices haven't been great, and so there are just a lot of challenges out there in the market, and not just in the real estate market, but the market as a whole. Even if we aren't in a majorly difficult spot economically.
Well, and I'm curious what the rest of the year will bring. We'll see. Will rates dip? Will there be more inventory? It's notoriously a quieter time of year because people don't want to move in the winter up here. But wouldn't it be something if rates dipped and we experienced a November, December, like a June, July? Wouldn't that be interesting? I guess we'll see.
It would. And I was just talking to some lake sellers the other day thinking about, hey, we might put our property on the market. Should we just wait till next year? I said, well, that's up to you. But hey, we've sold lake properties in, December and January, and not as many buyers out there. But hey, it doesn't hurt to put it out there for a little bit at least and see what happens.
Less competition, though, too. If something comes up and it's between that and another house, and that house waits till next spring, sometimes it's a great time. So,
right on.
Amen.
Well, Kayla, I think that puts a wrap on episode 83. A lot of good, probably, a little dry and sciencey and statsy for some people out there, but I know there are some people out there who really, really appreciate that information, especially as they're thinking of buying or selling. And so appreciate the perspective. Yeah,
it's good. It's good to know the data because the data doesn't lie. The numbers don't lie. So, and that's the way that we can measure it and give our clients the best advice. Because when clients come to us, we don't just say it's a good time to buy. We say it's a great time to buy because of X, Y, Z. So at the end of the day, the data matters.
Indeed. Well, Kayla, thanks for joining me as always. I hope you have a great week.
I will if you will.
See ya.
Bye.